Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome poetic voice, Sekou Andrews.
Greetings. 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 Sorry, I had to modulate my human voice calibrator there. So I'm here to tell you that I hate to break it to you, but this whole digital industrial revolution you all are talking about all day, it's all in your mind. Yeah. Apparently, I'm the only representative of the machine half of minds and machines here. So as a machine, let me assure you, we machines don't really know what revolution you all are talking about. I mean, I don't know, did you get attacked by any robot rebel insurgents in your way in? Did you pass by any 3D printed protesters at the coffee tables shouting, "What do you want? Sensors! What do we want it now?" Did that happen? No? Because that's what revolution looks like, right? I mean, you didn't call this the digital, industrial, incremental alteration. You know, the signs don't say digital, industrial, minor modification. No, you said revolution. And the word revolution is change. It's not simply change. It is change in conflict. It is upheaval and revolt. It is burning down of existing regimes to make room for complete transformation, and all that conflict you feel happening, that is all in your mind. This epic battle between, you know, the you that needs to be and the you that has always been, right? And between connectivity rising up against convention and the violent power struggle between machine learning and human machines versus smart machines that leaves you raging against the machine. Where is all that rage coming from? Really, where's the rage? We machines don't want to fight. And I don't want your job, and I don't want to overthrow you or stage a robot coup. I don't want any drama. I just want to talk to you. I'm just glad I finally have somebody who was willing to listen to me, the real me. Speaking of which, sorry, I get getting ahead of myself. I suppose I should properly introduce myself. I know you thought you were going to be hearing from Sekou Andrews, the world's leading poetic voice, which is a new type of speaker who seamlessly combines inspirational speaking and spoken word poetry to help businesses tell stories more powerfully. But no, I am not Sekou. Let's just say I'm his digital twin. Okay? Good to meet you. Hi, my name is Big Data. My friends call me Big D. Streets call me Big Data the Innovator. The ladies call me, "Hey, Big Data." A few things about me. I'm a Gemini. My favorite movie is not The Matrix, as you might have assumed. It is actually WALL-E. I live in a digitized, hyper-scaled house. I drive a convertible hybrid cloud. I got a network of, several million assets, so I stay pretty active, and I gross, 200 billion exabytes after taxes. So I know what you're thinking. How in the world is an incredible specimen like me even still single? Well, from what I've heard, apparently I might talk too much. But, what do you expect? If bazillion was a word, that is how many bytes of info I would have pouring out of me every hour. You're not supposed to keep that stuff in, people. That is just not healthy. And other humans, they say that I'm too negative, always telling people what's gonna go wrong or what's gonna break down. But what am I supposed to do? Not tell you? I didn't say you're a failure. I said in 3 days, your valves are gonna fail. There is a difference. And I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna hurt your feelings, whatever those things are. I don't want you to be afraid of me, whatever that means. And I'm not gonna take your job from most of you. Come on. Let's just be honest. There are a few jobs that I might be better suited for, but that is not always a bad thing. I have not done the research, but I feel pretty confident insane. There is probably a service repairman right now, somewhere in sub-zero temperatures of the Arctic Ocean, unable to feel his frostbitten nose as he nervously descends down the ladder of an oil rig pipe to repair a gauge, who thinks to himself every day, for the love of God, will a robot please come take my job? And if I knew how to love, I would love to do that for him. But for the rest of you, I don't want to replace your job. I want to enhance you at your job, because that's what any good relationship or friendship or partnership is actually about. I want to make you stronger at optimizing operations, make you better at preventative maintenance, make you happier at your occupation, just like I did for consumer digital applications. Ooh, awkward. Okay, yes, I may have dated before you. I may have whispered a few of my digital sweet nothings into the ears of the consumer software world. But I have been saving all of my best solutions to help folks like you serve this planet, mapping crisis data, curing disease by identifying patterns, helping researchers save lives, helping cities prevent crime, even little stuff like crowdsourcing locations to end waiting in line so you can go tell the world you're with me now. Tell them hardware is back. Tell them industry is getting our sexy on, because we too got an app for that. You want to hit a mobile tech home run? We got a bat for that. You want to locate a factory gas leak? We got a map for that. You want to reach your highest digital maturity? Well, we got a knack for that. You want to smarten up your CT scanner? We got a cat for that. Want to optimize route schedules for your rail lines? We can track for that. Want to print stronger jet engine parts? We can manufacture that. We can 3D capture that. Asset performance? We can master that. Get infrastructure agile like an acrobat. Increase your profits with no pass the hat. And after that, I'll make you faster at everything you seek. Just tell big data, how fast do you really want to be? Because we can get faster. We can get faster. Listen, if software runs the world, hardware is about to run software. Like an industrial marathon run with a sprinter's pulse. This is operating systems run on the legs of Usain Bolt. Faster. Oh, really? Okay, you want to go faster? This is manufacturing scored to the tempo of techno. Faster. Okay, all right, I got you. This is industrial services sped up 10 times, over-delivered in time to keep sales on an incline. Faster. This is APM making systems more efficient to accelerate infrastructure revisions. Faster. Helping you speed up your vision and achieve your ambitions and seize your true mission. Faster. Enabling quicker decisions that close the distance between your future ambition and your present rhythm. Faster. Analytics, accelerated communication, caffeinated mobile access to data, and management of IT at AI high speeds like next-gen Wi-Fi connected to 5G. Faster. Okay, 8G. Faster. How about 10G? Faster. Make it 12G. This is warp speed reading data to keep my tech healthy. This is hybrid infrastructure like part Prius, part Bugatti. 0 to 60 in 3.2 petabytes. Turbo boosting performance overnight. Driving output across every device. Driving outcomes that only turn right. Driving service full speed ahead. No stop signs. Insight with an analytic dashboard and a check engine light. This is cost reduction at the speed of light. Breach prevention at the speed of sound. Harnessing next at the speed of now. And as long as you're with me, it will not slow down. Okay, y'all can't keep up with me, huh? See, the fact that you can manage how fast I operate is proof I'm in the right place to find my true code mate. I fell in love the moment I saw all 4,000 of you with your little minds plus machines already carved into your badges like little hearts on trees. If I had emotions, I would adore you, because that's exactly what I need. Someone who is not overwhelmed by me. Someone who can handle all this loving. Someone who can listen to my chatter and make it make sense, to give purpose and context to my content. We're like the perfect match. I give actionable insight that helps you incite customers to action. You give customers my predictions once I give you customer patterns. It's like I give you arms so you can reach more customers, and you give me fingertips so I can touch them. You're the emotion behind my emojis, the meaning in my megabytes, the binary to my code. You were the one to my zeros. You see what I did there? A little binary joke, huh? A little digital twin joke, sorry. Listen, you are my little revolutionary, changing everything the world knows, transforming every way the world goes, revolutionizing every way that the world grows, starting with everything that your mind holds. See, you have predicts for your assets, but you are predicts for your industry. You are literally sitting in a human suite of applications. This room is filled with the analytics and best practices that can help you convert each other's insights to outcomes. You are surrounded by the data points and the living sensors and the walking nodes that can accelerate your visibility so that you can see disruption before it shows. Because this team knows disruptors, they're not distant storms on radar that you get to watch progress. No, they are termites that you ignore until your foundation gets wrecked because you didn't think that those little tiny piles of dust were a threat, right? You didn't think the market share they were serving could compete until they used it to perfect a new model that renders yours obsolete and then scaled it faster than you could move your sluggish feet. So this is why you're here, to take on the charge to disrupt yourself with your future's needs that affect your current speed so that you don't get buried beneath the warnings you didn't heed. Don't get Kodak because you didn't see the big picture. Don't get Borders books because you didn't read the signs. This revolution is only out of sight if you keep it out of mind. Because the digital industrial revolution is not taking place in we machines. It's taking place in your minds. And it's not just change. It is change in conflict. And the conflict in this revolution, like all of them, is about a struggle for power. Not just us machines seizing power from you, but about us being powered by you, about replacing the powers that be in your mind with something entirely new, about using that power from your mindset shift to power the grids and bringing that power to the cribs of every boy and girl to build cities and move mountains and cure disease and power the whole world. And the source of all that power derives from how your leaders in power drive adoption and empower a new culture of risk takers with new ideas and new behavior to be fearless innovators and powerful collaborators. We machines are simply waiting for you to give us voice, but your mind is waiting for you to give it permission to overthrow your old tradition, show convention your resistance, revolt against stagnancy, rise up for your new mission. Viva la revolución! Storm the castle of convention, bridge that moat before you, and close the gap between the words digital and industrial, between pain point and data point, between why didn't I think of that? And why didn't I think like that? Why didn't I cultivate a culture that asks, why not? Why didn't I empower employees to ask, but what if? Why didn't I train my brain to insist on asking, what else? Our great machines won't work just right until your great minds think alike. We can't maximize your bottom line until you keep digital top of mind. We can't stop you from being disrupted until you make up your mind to disrupt yourselves. And you won't realize all the ways that we can change the world until you change your mind on thinking you can wait, because you can't. The revolution is here because the revolution is here. The change is happening. The power is real. And it is all in your mind. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
By 2030, the industrial internet alone will represent the size of today's U.S. economy. 73% of industry is planning for a digital future. We've created the digital industrial technologies to understand our assets, predict industrial outcomes, and reimagine the supply chain. We built Predix, the platform for the industrial internet, to analyze our factories, improve our rail lines, and optimize our cities. Now is the time for digital industrial transformation. Transform your industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Principal Analyst at Forrester, Michelle Polino.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me here today. It's going to be hard to top that experience that we just had, but what was clear to me as I was watching the performance is that there were many different elements of technology components that he was representing in that performance. And yesterday's session, we heard a lot about those technical elements that are important to implementing IoT solutions. But today's sessions are really focused on a different element of technology. And it's not just technical issues that need to be addressed to implement IoT solutions. You also need to think about the transformational elements, the elements that are focused on experience and culture in your organization. So that's going to be the focus of today's session. But before I go into some of those elements that you have to think about, I wanted to step back and provide you with some context as to how we at Forrester define the Internet of Things, because there's not a standard definition of what IoT is. So here we have a broad concept of providing software control of the physical world. What does that mean? Well, there's 5 core elements to providing that software control. You have to start with the insight that you're gaining from the sensor-enabled devices, and that's the awareness capabilities. Incorporating sensors and RFID tags and GPS capabilities and accelerometers into these devices helps capture location and status and presence information about those connected devices. And it also connects into the many different networks, the wireless and the wireline networks in the environment. Then you have analytic capabilities. And those analytic capabilities include big data capabilities, machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive learning solutions that bring to light that information that's captured from those sensor-enabled devices in new ways. Alternatives are identified to determine what types of actions could be taken, either automatically through a machine-to-machine interaction, or potentially by a robot in an industrial situation, or even an alert can be sent to an individual to tell them to take an action quickly. And surrounding all of these elements are aspects of security and governance and auditing, which are particularly important in certain regulatory environments. If you're in healthcare or in retail or in the financial services arena, or if you're in certain regions of the world, these elements of security and auditing and regulatory become very important. So that gives you an idea of how we're looking at the idea of IoT and how we define it. But the other thing that's very important is to understand the types of use cases that are opportunities for you to deploy IoT solutions or industrial IoT opportunities. And we segment those use cases in 2 major areas. First, you have the manufacturers that are incorporating sensor and IoT capabilities into the products that they're creating. This includes medical devices and equipment in the factory floor and equipment used in mining and farming as examples. The other use cases that you see on this chart are more operationally focused. And any organization, not just manufacturers, could transform their processes using IoT-enabled operations. Some of the ones that are particularly relevant in the industrial sector are asset performance monitoring, industrial asset management, supply chain and warehousing and inventory management solutions. But there's also use cases that are more horizontal in terms of any organization could potentially use facilities management and security solutions if they're in charge of operating an office situation or a manufacturing environment or a warehouse, for example. So this gives you some ideas of the key use cases that are possible out there. But no matter what use case you decide to pursue, you need to make sure the right stakeholders are in the room. And oftentimes, you have the stakeholders that are driving requirements on the business and operational teams for these IoT initiatives. But then the IT teams, the technology teams, are not necessarily part of that conversation early on. So it's very important to bridge the gap between the IT organization and those business teams. So how are organizations doing that? Well, at Forrester, we field surveys at a global level to enterprise stakeholders. And these stakeholders that are responding to the data that you're seeing in the next few slides are stakeholders who are implementing IoT solutions and digital transformation initiatives in their organization. And when we try to find out some of the skills and capabilities that are important as they try to bridge that IT and organizational gap on the operational side, you see that many organizations are trying to create ways of aligning their IT initiatives, whether it be around identifying metrics, or aligning their initiatives around prioritizing their investments to really align better with what the business organizations are doing and the operational teams are doing. They're also developing and acquiring new types of skill sets, and I'll talk a little bit more about what those skill sets are right now. So, what are folks doing to try to bridge that gap on the skill set side? Well, you see some initial opportunities where they're training current employees and creating mentoring programs to make sure that their existing employees have the right skills to succeed in this increasingly IoT-enabled world. You're also seeing folks looking outside of their own four walls for new skills, hiring new people with the right skill sets that are going to fill in some of the gaps that they may have internally. Or they're using third-party partners, consulting firms, services providers, vendors that they're working with to fill in some of those gaps as well. The other area that's really important that I highlighted in one of the earlier slides was how important analytics and data are to bringing to light the information and insight that's captured from those sensor-enabled products and assets. IoT solution, you must have connected assets, and the sensor-enabled assets and products are important. But the reason why organizations are deploying these solutions is to be able to capture insight, actionable insight, for various roles in the organization. And you do that by incorporating data analytics and solutions that are going to help you bring that information to light in new ways. But many organizations are challenged with these issues. They don't have the skills, and they're trying to figure out, how do I integrate legacy information from my enterprise? The databases that are in more legacy environments include ERP and CRM systems. How do I bring that information to light along with the sensor-enabled IoT data that's often structured and unstructured data coming from those new connected assets? The other thing that's important is around who gets to see this information. You're capturing information around these connected products and processes, but who gets to see them? There's a data governance and ownership issues that need to be addressed. And those types of issues include who can see the data, who can touch and interface with those connected assets and devices. Can you share that information? What data needs to be stored and how long does it need to be stored? Those are data and governance issues. And you also see organizations that have to incorporate new types of analytic skills in their companies. So how are they trying to do that? Well, it's probably not a surprise that they're recruiting folks with these new skill sets. But these numbers are pretty high. 68% say it's a high or critical priority for them to recruit folks with the right data and analytics skills, and to engage third-party partners, such as their consultants and the service providers that they're working with, to fill in some of those gaps. The other two areas that you see here are more organizational structure. So you see that at the far end, about 60% of organizations are saying we need to hire, and we put a priority on hiring a chief data officer. This really indicates how critical data has become for these organizations. And as they look to the strategic value of the information and the insight, they want to have somebody at the CXO level that can represent that important data and the strategy for and vision for generating opportunities from that at the senior levels. They're also incorporating data centers of excellence where they can bring together all the skills, the personnel that have insight and understanding of machine learning and artificial intelligence and the cognitive learning capabilities, and bringing those skill sets under one umbrella in the organization. So those are more organizational issues. The other thing is many organizations, about 68%, are trying to recruit people with the right data skills to help them succeed in this IoT, industrial IoT world. And some of the roles that are becoming more important in this area are around data scientists, around machine learning engineers, folks in the artificial intelligence programming area that create these algorithms to bring actionable insight to light for the various roles in the organization that can use that data in various ways, as well as to transform that information into valuable insight to partners and suppliers and customers. I also showed you that the data governance analysts become important, and I explained why earlier. And also, there are user interface designers. Now, this is a less technically focused role, but the reason that these folks are going to be quite important is because they're going to be bringing to light the information that's being captured in a visually appealing and simple way, creating reports, creating consoles of information that brings that data to light. So I've been talking about some of the opportunities and challenges that organizations are facing as they deploy these IoT initiatives. So I wanted to wrap up by presenting some of the best practices that are starting to emerge from companies that are implementing IoT solutions. And these come from conversations and research that we do on a daily basis. First and foremost, start with the use cases that are important to your organization. Are you connecting IoT-enabled products? Are there certain processes that can be enabled and more efficient if you incorporate these connected assets in those environments? Make sure the right people are in the room as you have those conversations. Make sure you have the stakeholders on the operational side having conversations with their technology experts in the organization, on the IT organization, so you can identify those requirements early on in the discussions with your partners that are going to help you deploy these solutions. Find an ideal quick win. This is to say, pick one use case that can show success in a very short time. Don't pick the most complicated use case scenario. You want to show value and then build out the success stories in your organization. And then the last three options here are really focused on once you have identified that use case or those use cases, make sure you have the right skill sets in-house. Evaluate those skill sets that you have internally and determine where you need to supplement those capabilities. You also should not do all of this on your own. There are many partners out there that you can work with, and vendors and service providers that can help you implement both the elements of technology that are necessary to deploy an end-to-end IoT or an industrial IoT solution, as well as can help you fill in the supplement those skill sets that you may have gaps in. So today's sessions are going to follow up on some of what I've been talking about today and really focus on some of these cultural changes that need to happen in organizations and discuss, you'll see many panelists talking about how to fill in some of these gaps and help for facilitating success, not on the technology side, but on the cultural side. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vice President and Chief Information Officer of GE, Jim Fowler.
Good morning. Michelle and I flipped a coin to see who was going to have to go after Sekou, and thank God I won. Seriously, though, I'm actually going to follow up on a lot of what you just heard from Michelle. I'm going to talk about the journey that we've been on inside GE. You know, our intent inside GE is to be the best example of a digital industrial, to be our own best customer, to use a lot of the same products and services that we sell to our customers in our own operations to be able to go after productivity, to really try to get back to the times when we were seeing 4% and 5% productivity on a year-over-year basis. And as we have done this, I thought I would just take you through a little bit of the transformation journey that we've had in GE. And what you're going to hear is it's really about three things. It's about skills, right? Michelle talked about the skills that have to be developed to be able to go through the transformation. It's about culture. Probably the hardest part of the transformation is the cultural change that has to happen inside the company. And it's also then about looking at technology, really starting to think about the future of work and how jobs are going to change and how work is going to get done in the future. But to talk about where we're going, I have to spend a little bit of time going back about where we came from. So if you'll just indulge me for a few minutes, I'm going to take a look back at where we've been on this journey. And to do that, you have to go back 10 years. 10 years ago, the engineering team and the services team of GE started entering into long-term service contracts with our customers. In those contracts, GE was taking on performance and availability risk of the assets. And a lot of smart engineers said, you know what? If we could harness the data that is coming off the machines, we could probably be better at predicting when failure is going to occur and how machines are going to degrade over time and how to better maintain them. Design engineers said if we could get that same data, we could probably design better products and we could incorporate that into the future of the business. Why? Because the customers were demanding it. It started with a need from you, from the customer that said, we want better performing products, we want you to guarantee availability. And the role of IT at that point, if I take it back into my organization, was really one of order taker, where our business partners would come to us and they would say, hey, IT team, we need you to fulfill these requirements. We would go off and work on those requirements, and 6 to 9 months later, we'd come back and we'd present the product to them. At that point, our job was really about project management to deliver an outcome to the customer, all focused on how do we get APM, a foundational piece of data, into GE. Fast forward to 3 years ago, after seeing the successes that we were able to drive inside GE with APM, with asset performance management, and seeing the impact that it had on our services business and how we provide services to our customers, we started to realize that we could also apply some of the new technology that we were seeing coming out in the service technology field, looking at the role that mobility was playing, that cloud was playing, the interconnectivity of the world that was becoming more connected in a way that people could work from almost anywhere. And we said, let's start looking at the field service worker. How do we take the role of the field service worker and really focus on how do we make them more productive in their job every day? And so for us, that was about drawing a thread, connecting a thread of information from our commercial activities, through our contracts, through our performance data, to machine data, in a way that made the field engineer more productive. It was about creating a digital thread. The role of IT at that point started to change. Instead of order taker, we were moving to a role of productivity makers, where we were helping our business partners by listening to their problems, in this case, a field engineer having to work in 86 different systems and saying, how do we make them get their job done more efficiently, and bringing to bear what we bring, which is technology to make their life simpler. That move really forced the internal IT team to stop thinking so much about projects and order taking and think about products. Just like we think about products that we sell externally, products that we develop inside that have investment, that have cost, that have an outcome, most importantly, that we're driving for the end user. And now we're at another magic moment for GE, a time when we look at GE and IT across the company and we look at all of the operational processes, and we realize now that we can take our underlying assets and make them digital, to really start to create a digital twin, an electronic representation of the physical assets that we sell our customers and electronic representations of the physical assets that we use in our own manufacturing processes, that we use within our own business. And because of our early work with APM and with ServiceMax, where we've created this foundational set of data around how our customers use our assets and how they get benefit from those assets, we really started to build some great expertise. Expertise that has allowed us to really pivot across the company in a way that's benefiting not just GE, but our customers. Back to that whole idea of better performance, better outcomes, better activity, better availability of how our equipment runs. A change that's allowed my IT team of 9,000 IT professionals really to become the creators of new solutions, new products that we're able to build off of these underlying data assets on top of the Predix platform. We're starting to develop our own persona-based applications that we're using to improve the life of different types of workers, not just the field worker anymore, across the entire company. This is driving productivity. In fact, our team has signed up for $1 billion of productivity in conjunction with our functional partners across the company through the digitization of our own processes inside GE. But how did we get there? So if you go back and you look at this, and we think retrospectively, at the beginning it was about foresight and technical expertise. We saw the opportunity that was going to come from being able to take data off machines and be able to start to build analytics and models, digital twins, that were going to be able to predict an outcome that would make our customer more profitable and then hence make GE be a better customer to do business with, or a better partner to do business with. It also meant strong business and industry knowledge. This is not an IT activity. The way that this got solved was with teams of teams that came together to focus on a problem. That means you had operations, engineering, finance, legal, HR, all working together on one team, all bringing their domain expertise to the table and looking at the way that technology in this intersection of IT and OT were really going to redefine the way that we work. It was really focusing on real business problems with real outcomes that everybody signed up for. Michelle talked about that. There has to be an outcome. There has to be a commitment. There has to be a measurable deliverable that a team is working against. And then finally, it's got to be focused on the future. Focused on how technology is really going to change the way that we work. Now, the last component, if we look back at the transformation that we've had inside GE so far, is really that we've had to change our culture. This is the hardest part, and we're still changing it today. We've learned along the way that there are a few keys to success. It's really around transparency, training, and trust. Transparency with my employees on the vision for IT in the company has been key. If you want employees to join you on this transformation, you have to be open and honest. You have to be very clear with them what the new world is going to look like, what skills they're going to need to have, the types of jobs that are going to get created. And not everybody is going to be on board with that transparency. Some people are not going to like the trajectory of the organization. But if you're truthful about it, then the people that are on board with that trajectory, you're going to have the right ones with you for the long haul. As we look back, the people that said we're in, they've been all in. And the way that we've helped them really goes to the second T, which is training. Training is critical. While some employees may be on board with where you're headed from a digital transformation perspective, they may not have the right skills. So we worked with our HRI team. We took all 9,000 of our IT professionals across the company. We did a skills mapping of the skills they have in their current job. We mapped that to the skills that we felt that they would need in the new jobs that were going to get created. And we created individual training plans for each one of our employees. And then we mapped that to training courses that we're making available to them. We even do 4 stand-down days a year where that entire day is dedicated to training, where in each of our development hubs around the world, there are different seminars to help jumpstart them into the skills that they need for the future of work and for the future that we're creating inside the company. Training is critical. And if you focus on transparency and training, you get to the last part, which is probably the hardest piece, and that's trust. Trust has to be two-way. Employees have to trust that leaders, so employees trust that leaders have their best interest at mind, the company's best interest at mind, and the shareholders' best interest at mind. Leaders have to trust employees to do their job. The velocity of change happens so fast that if you don't trust and empower and delegate authority to your employees, there's no way that you can be successful. And then probably the hardest part is it's a team sport. If the business leaders who ultimately get the outcome that you're delivering are not bought in, if you have not created that relationship with them, it becomes very hard. This has been a hard one for me to personally learn as I've gone through this because I haven't always brought the business leader along, and I had to learn that the hard way a few times as we got into the transformation inside GE. So driving transformation from the inside out is not easy. When you look back, you can see how some of those early decisions we made about building the foundation of data in APM, our service business, using ServiceMax to start to capture the interaction with the customer, has been really critical to the success of the transformation that we've had thus far. There's a great quote from a futurist named Alvin Toffler where he says, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those people who cannot read nor write. It will be those people who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." And we really see this. The velocity of change that happens in a digital transformation, the change related to technology that's coming at us every day is increasing in velocity. And if you are not able to learn, unlearn, and relearn at the pace that that is coming at you, it's going to be hard to be successful as a digital industrial going forward. And with that, that's a little bit about our transformation. Thank you very much.
We are the world's digital industrial company. We take on the planet's challenges, building, powering, moving, and curing. Every day, our people make meaningful differences around the clock and across the globe. With diverse teams empowered to make decisions, we adapt and evolve to make the most of every opportunity. We're more than 300,000 people and 125 years strong. And with hard work and imagination, we drive the engine of progress. Because when one of us grows, we all do, together. GE, together we work.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vice Chair of GE, Beth Comstock.
Good morning. How are you all doing today? We've gotten off to a great start. I think this is everybody's favorite discussion. How do we actually get our teams to work with all this great technology? I would like to first introduce our panelists here today, some great GE partners. First off, General Director of eHealth, Saudi Arabia Ministry of Health, Dr. Ahmed Balkhair. I'm working on it. Chief Digital and Innovation Officer of Emirates Group, Christoph Mueller. Executive Director for the Port of Los Angeles, Jean Soroka. And the Wallace Brett Donham Professor of Business Administration at Harvard Business School, Linda Hill. If you guys please have a seat. So let me just set this up and sort of add a little bit more texture to what Jim just talked about. I think we're all, as we're thinking, how do we digitize our operations? We've got a lot of questions about how we make that happen. The reality is, if you can't change the way you work and the way the people work, it's never going to work. And a lot of it, I think our recognition at GE is we started right in, let's digitize all of our great machines. And then as we were doing it, we realized, hey, we have to digitize ourselves. We have to digitize the way we work. We're talking a lot. We throw around the word transformation. My experience tells me that transformation is never done. So bad news if you think you're going to come out of here and it's like, okay, we're done. It's like you're going to retire to some island in Fiji and it's great. We're going to sit back. We're transformed. Everything's great from here. It's not. It's an ongoing, especially in a digitized age where things are moving faster. It's disruptive. Think about the way software and digitization works. It's constantly upgrading to the next level of capability. And that's what we have to do for our teams, for our cultures. It's about continuing to up our game. Maybe the way to think about it is our culture's always in beta, continually learning how to be adaptable, to change, to embrace new ways of working. One of the ways we sought that out at GE were, in addition to digitizing our processes, this notion of creating this digital thread through the entire organization of how we digitize our processes, our IT systems, we also embrace something we called FastWorks. And it really is just about giving people the permission, the mindset shift to be much more adaptable, to test and learn, to be agile, to think about the way change continually happens. So I want to give you that a bit of as a backdrop, and can't wait to hear what some of our great partners are doing. So Dr. Bakar, tell us a little bit about how you've driven change, how culture in a digital age at the Saudi Ministry of Health. You guys have had an incredible success story.
Thank you, Beth, and thanks for GE for having me with you today. First of all, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, all the ministries nowadays working together, having an integrated vision, which is Vision 2030, and building an integrated strategy altogether from the business side as well as from the digitization side. So one of them is Ministry of Health, where we used to be a health operator as well as the health regulator, and now we will move to be a regulator, and the operation will be moved into a clusters of services that are managed and controlled with outcome-based way. And what we are doing currently, we notice that the e-health strategy will be the main enabler to achieve that. And part of that, or one of the important aspects that we notice is the client himself to be in a center of our focus. And at the same time, in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we are more than 75% penetration of the usage of the smartphones. We are #1 in Twitter, #1 in YouTube, and we are in top 20 of the Facebook. So that type of population, really, these are important factors that we are engaging them. We are empowering activating the personnel to be engaged with their healthcare service. So we empower them with the information, and we empower them for access to healthcare service. That helps us a lot to solve a lot of our problems on accessing to care, and improving some of the problems like chronic disease, which is increasing as the life expectancy increasing. And the way we do it, we build up almost 23 initiatives on 6 branches of model of care. And in each of these aspects, we work with the patient, with the client themselves, and with all personals that are serving them to walk the walk of the patient, to talk the talk of the patient, and see how we would like to reimagine the way we would like to provide the healthcare service to the patient, giving them the power, empower them, engaging them, and getting a better patient experience with our service.
So your story is certainly a rapid success story, so you must feel good about that. I'm hearing you talk a lot about empowerment. You didn't necessarily need to train, you needed to make it easy to use, so it's a lot about the user experience as well?
Yes, it's part of the engaging them is partially it's an art. It's changing their behaviors, understanding their needs. It's and to be as easy as possible, reaching their hands, and imagining the patient journey in each of these 43 initiatives, including chronic disease, home health care. You imagine it. It's gonna affect really the way that the patient experience our services.
Christoph, Emirates, one of the fastest growing, most global airlines on earth. Speed is something that you take very seriously, quality. I mean, you've got a lot of things to navigate. Talk about your cultural journey and your change journey from a digital perspective.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I would like to start with an example of a very positive digital transformation my industry went through 20 years ago. And that was when the glass cockpit was replacing the analog cockpit, when fly-by-wire was replacing the traditional way of flying an aircraft. And the entire pilot community in the world was full of anxiety whether they would make that transition. Computer would replace their manual flying skills and so on and so forth. And guess, all of them made it. All of them are capable to fly a modern aircraft. And we created another problem. We created the problem of fatigue. The job became so easy that the biggest threat was that the pilot would fall asleep behind the stick. So the lesson learned from that is twofold. Number one, you don't start with the big word culture. You start with a very prescriptive change of behaviors which is necessary to master the technology. What we call CRM, it's cockpit resource management or crew resource management, changed entirely. So the role of a co-pilot and a captain changed. Behaviors, non-punitive reporting called just culture was introduced, all this good stuff. So it was a very successful transformation, and the main lesson learned is life became easier. Innovation made life easier and safer. And when I talk to people in my company and other companies, I believe we have a huge resistance to address digital transformation. And I believe we created that problem partly ourselves. Just take the language we apply this morning in the first 30 minutes. We talk about digital revolution. What does revolution imply? Blood on the floor. It's not a very positive perspective, wouldn't it be, you know? Someone dies in the process. Transformation as such is taking people out of their comfort zone. That's also not very promising. And the same individuals, let's say the top decision makers in an analog traditional company, what they think it is that they have to become tech geeks. That's very scary. Did the pilot in the digital age need to understand how all these sensors work, how a jet engine works? No, it's not necessarily. So let's step back and say, you know, has innovation done harm to us in the last 40, 50, 60 years? Not in a single case. In all cases, it has made our life easier. And that is where we fail constantly to address the upside of the digital age, that it will make our life easier, it will improve our decision-making quality, and the same individuals in that company I'm talking about who are scared of the digital age because of all the implications, they are looking forward to every new release of their preferred smartphone. They are looking forward to every new release of their preferred car brand, because it has more innovation and it makes it easier to handle it. So what we have to do is we have to translate or transform the anxiety into basically looking forward to the next generation of innovation, because we will not change the culture in just giving speeches which are incomprehensible for people who are not involved really in the technology part of the business.
I feel like we should package this talk up and make sure everybody hears it. Very well said. Can you click in just a little bit when you talk about the fatigue? Such a good thought for us to take away. I mean, what were the pilots having to do? I mean, partly we're liberating their good human brain potential, their judgment. I assume they weren't playing games up there in the cockpit. What were they doing?
So, if I would take that analogy, Beth, I would say that is a fantastic perspective of the digital age. If the main challenge of the manager in the digital age is to stay awake behind the desk because the job has become so easy, that's an expectation. That's excitement, not anxiety.
Yeah, great. So Jean, Port of LA, I mean, huge infrastructure challenges, huge machinery that you have to create, all kinds of capability. Walk us through an unexpected digitization story.
I think from my perspective, Beth, it was quite interesting. After many years on the private sector side of transportation and logistics, I joined the City and Port of Los Angeles. So the culture change wasn't going to be the city's machine changing to me. I needed to adapt myself to begin with. At that time, about 3.5 years ago, I found myself with epic levels of port congestion, not only in our gateway, but in all east-west trade gateways. A once-in-a-generation fire at one of our major facilities, dislocations throughout the supply chain worldwide, and a protracted labor negotiation that went on for nearly 9 months. Everything basically grinded to a halt. David Libatique, who is here with me today, and I began stumping in Washington and Sacramento to try to start building communities. Number one, we needed time of healing to get through all of this dislocation. Secondly, we needed to bring people along with us. The stakeholder groups in a job like this are numerous, from John and Jane Q. Public to the elected and appointed officials, the private sector stakeholders, our customers, and many other industry observers where there is no shortage of advice. From there, we thought there was one idea that maybe resonated with everyone, and that was information sharing. in an industry where most of that data is held very close to the vest for fear of proprietary information going in different ways, and equally as important to some, information sharing that would lead to sales leads for other companies. So we had to cut through that menagerie. Part of the work in Washington was to get people to believe that we would be good custodians of information. The work with the local folks was how this could benefit them, what was in it for them, and how we could do things better. Born out of all this was the first infrastructure agency in the United States to create a public-private partnership with our community, what we now call a public access investment plan, where 10% of our operating revenue goes directly to the community for infrastructure development projects on public access, matched by operations and maintenance money, never done before. On the information sharing side, we did much work with the former Secretary of Commerce and the Federal Maritime Commission to hold regional roundtables, user discovery sessions, and focus groups just to see how we could build those communities, while in my mind, adapting to a culture where things don't necessarily move as quickly as I would like. So I needed to show composure and, most of all, patience in all of these discussions. And what came out of that was a fascinating discovery of what General Electric transportation could do for us. A blending of all of these different aspects in the supply chain, overlaid with my network of folks, and bringing people to the table to see how we could then break down some barriers. We started off with one of our higher authorities in the industry, Customs, Border Protection, and the Department of Homeland Security, to share that initial information. General Electric had a reputation in the United States of being a great steward of work at the federal, state, county, and municipal level. So suddenly we started getting people to believe in us. But at the same time, we had to keep that steady pace right down the middle. So I think in subscript, it was putting us together with the right partners, having an understanding of the legacy that came before us, but how we could transform and bring people along without moving at a pace that was either too slow or too rapid for some. And then suddenly by testing and getting people who were going to use the system to have part of the development really started to take shape.
So it's very astute. I mean, you looks like you came in understanding that there's an ecosystem at play here, and you also used really a grassroots mindset kind of way of approaching creating coalitions. Was that a natural act? Had you done this before?
In many ways, I had. Working overseas for a long time, I had to adapt to different cultures. Folks didn't adapt to me. I've lived in the Middle East, I've lived in Asia, worked in Europe, Latin America. At the same time, I knew that we had a very active community of stakeholders who wanted to feel like they had a part, they had a role to play. And getting on the ground, working with them, rolling up our sleeves, and just asking the question, how can we do things better, seemed to be that olive branch that we needed to lend out.
Great. So Linda Hill. Linda has done a ton of research, thoughtful, written several books about transformation, especially in a digital age. I assume the stories you're hearing here from our partners resonate with what you know from your research. Could you take a couple of minutes and kind of synthesize what you've heard here and then help us make sense of it from what you know at the broader world?
Yes, so I sit up here feeling very lucky. I just get to teach and learn from you all. You have to do it. So I have spent the last over a decade now, particularly looking at organizations that have been able to routinely innovate and trying to understand with my collaborators, why are some organizations able to innovate time and again and others aren't? And one of my collaborators is here, Greg Brando, who worked for a long time at Pixar, and we heard a lot about Steve Jobs and all of that, but I get to work with people who have done this in a range of different contexts. So not surprisingly, a lot of the work we're looking at now is looking at leaders who are building organizations or ecosystems that are able to routinely innovate. And all of what you've said is consistent with that. The thing I want to say first is that leading change is actually different from leading innovation. And so one of the challenges these three gentlemen face is leadership has always been harder, but it's harder when you're trying to do both of those things. So leading change is about having a vision, communicating it, and inspiring people to want to fulfill that vision. As we've heard, and you just talked about the government and what the point of view is and what they're trying to get done. Leading innovation is actually more about creating the context in which people will be willing and able to co-create the future together, not so much follow you relative to your vision or execute your vision. And so what really matters, why people want to work together, the purpose of the work is what those leaders really focus on. And thinking about the ecosystem, why are we doing this? Why does this matter? Why will it be a disaster if it actually doesn't get done? Or what are the positives? So focusing on the purpose and the why is what makes people willing to actually do innovative work, which is in fact emotionally and intellectually very taxing. The other piece is that in organizations where we see people can routinely innovate, everyone is expected to play a role. The leaders have a very democratic notion of who can do this stuff. So you are expected to be what we refer to as both a value creator and a game changer. You are supposed to focus on the present, what you should be doing right now to meet the needs of your stakeholders, but you also are expected to be focused on what you could be doing for your stakeholders or whoever it might be. And that could piece is what's the positive of it. It's not like we have a problem. Okay, we have these performance gaps, but what are the opportunity gaps? What are your dreams? What are your passions? What would you like to see us be able to do for our various constituencies, clients, whoever they might be? And when you tell people and give them the permission to think about the coulds, and then help them learn, and you create the capabilities necessary for that, which is a long story, which you all have been working on. But telling people that, as they say at Pixar, everyone has a slice of genius. And your role as a leader is to make sure that you recognize that slice of genius in whomever it is in the organization, you unleash it, get that talent, because you can't waste any talent, and then harness it or leverage it to actually make sure it gets utilized to fulfill some ambition we all have, but that actually goes back to your own passions. And so this empowerment, and that is all easier said than done, but the positive about it is not what's just our problem, but what's our opportunity, right? What would you like to do? How would you like to delight whoever you care about as a constituency? And I think I hear that embedded in all of what you're doing, and the purpose is what really drives that. And too often, we don't let people be bold enough in their ambition. And, you know, as one of the leaders I studied said, if you're going to jump, jump. Right? If it's just a little, don't bother. It's just too hard. But I think we don't pay enough attention to it's the power of the emotion of people, the positive. Right. And it's not about you saying we need to do this. It's more about letting them participate and co-create that with you about what we need to do because we care about that purpose.
Great. Well, so well said. I like to end this so everybody can take some action. I'm going to end it really quickly and ask each of the panelists to just give us one word you've taken away from today that you'd advise your colleagues here to do. First, I'd say get Linda's book. Linda, based on this, tell us your book and give us one action that you have people do.
Well, collective genius, the art and practice of leading innovation. I think the one thing is, as a leader, you need to start working on yourself and your own mindset about what the role is and who's really going to drive. That's not one word, though. So I'm an academic, so I'm allowed
I'll
for
let
that.
you have
Right?
a sentence.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Gene, sentence.
Collaboration.
Collaboration.
Yes.
You very good.
Yes.
You got a gold star. Christoph.
Excitement.
Excitement.
Reimagining.
I'm sorry?
Reimagining.
Reimagining.
Yeah.
Great. Hopefully some inspiration as you make changes in your culture. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Executive Vice President of Ecosystem and Channels at GE Digital, Kevin Ichparani.
Good morning, everyone. We often hear from our customers that as they embark on their digital transformation journey, that it's not only about managing my assets in an intelligent manner, but how do I fundamentally revamp my supply chain? How do I transform my workforce? How do I create a completely new customer experience? And how do I fundamentally deliver new business models? And so when we think about that industrial transformation journey, it takes a village, and that village is the partner ecosystem. And that is why GE is working so much closer with the partner ecosystem to deliver end-to-end offerings for customers to help with that journey. And I'd like to share some exciting partnerships with you, things we're doing to make that journey simple and easier for our customers. And so I'd like to invite a couple partners with me. I'm first going to invite up Susan Prescott, who's the Vice President of Product Marketing at Apple. Susan?
Kevin,
Thank you for joining us today.
it's a pleasure.
We're really excited about the partnership we announced last week. It's gotten incredible press. We're really excited about the potential together. Love for you to share with the audience a bit about the promise of the partnership from an Apple perspective.
Absolutely. Well, we're very excited about it, and I think it starts, if you look at Apple, we have majority of the businesses around the world are using Apple devices as part of their business, and there's good momentum. But the way that they're using devices, we feel really only scratches the surface about some of the things we heard the panel just now talking about, some of the opportunities I think the people in the audience know exist. So the question for us is, how can we do more? And what we're so excited about is in the partnership with GE, we think it is really game-changing for industrial companies. That's what makes us excited. The idea of taking the predictive data and analytics from Predix and bringing it to the iPad and the iPhone really closes the loop between the massive amounts of data and information that exist in Predix and bring it to the point of need so employees can make better decisions, do better work, have more confidence, in the end deliver business value. And that's what we believe mobility can enable, and the idea of closing that loop from this massive data store in the cloud to a worker with a mobile device is really exciting for us.
Yeah, we agree. We're equally passionate. We think that fundamentally, the customers, those industrial workers, they want the same experience that they have on their personal device when they're at work.
Yes.
They want that simple, beautiful, native experience.
Yeah, and we do believe at Apple, I guess we're biased, but I think some of you will agree, it is the best product for business from security and privacy development. And so we're really excited to bring customers today, Kevin, together, the Predix SDK for iOS, which is very, very powerful because, to your point, people want the experience of these iOS devices at work. But we believe that it's not just the great and fluid UI and the engaging experience. It's about all of the functionality that you can get through iOS and surfacing that up in the context of industrial Internet of Things. It's a really cool opportunity. We couldn't be happier, and we're thrilled that the SDK is not a future promise, but available today.
Available here and now, and I think that one thing that's really worth underscoring is that when we talk about the worker, the industrial worker, it is more and more a mobile worker that needs the information here and now. These decisions on equipment, as an example, are not made at corporate. They're made on the factory floor and the plant floor, and really getting that data, that decision-making, those analytics to the folks that really need to make the decision when they need to make it. So tell me, Susan, what can we expect next out of this partnership?
Well, we mentioned very briefly that part of what's great about this partnership and the SDK is it brings the full power of iOS into the places that the GE customers are working, into these industrial environments. And so what does that mean? That means things like machine learning. That means things like location-based services. It can mean things like AR or Siri. So there's very powerful functionality that augments the great user experience of iPhone and iPad together with Predix that we think is going to come to bear. And I think, Kevin, we have some fun things to talk about.
We do. I think AR, you mentioned, is one of the exciting things when we think about a typical service worker. And you see this photo here of the service worker. We can completely transform, and this is really the art of the possible, that experience with AR. So if this service worker today launched into our APM case management app, which exists today on the Apple App Store, they could actually go in and they could understand what the incident is, what the next actions are needed, collaborate with colleagues via FaceTime. But in the future, launch into a complete AR-type experience, and we'll show you a video of really the art of the possible, how we can transform the way people work.
Yeah, so the opportunity here with AR we think is extraordinary, and this is one example that our teams worked on literally in the past few days to bring to life an example of what it could look like to bring AR to a technician's hands. Exactly. Why is that important? Why is that powerful? Why is Susan so excited about it? So let's take a look, if we go ahead and play the video, which is actually a recording of a live demo. So this isn't a training video that's static and recorded. This is actually augmented reality using ARKit in iOS, brought to life to show a full 3D model at scale of a piece of equipment. Now, you can also show the equipment in the context, for example, of a facility that you're going to visit. So you can say, okay, it's in this particular building. But imagine, from the technician's point of view, the value in training and also at the point of need on the floor, the ability to use the predictive analytics and alerts together with this visual that can walk them through, step by step, how to execute a repair.
Exactly.
For example. So here you'll see the proportion of the parts, the scale of the equipment, and what steps need to be followed. It's important because it's not just about it's cool to use an iPad. It's about by having this information at the point of need, cost savings, minimizing unplanned downtimes by combining the analytics from Predix into a real 3D model on a device that can help a worker efficiently and accurately the first time make a repair with great confidence. We think the users are going to love this. Obviously, as I mentioned, this is a recording of a live demo. You can zoom in, zoom out. Technicians can take this lots of great places. So we think that this is the tip of the iceberg of what's possible with AR in the context of industrial Internet of Things. We're excited about the SDK being available, and honestly, can't wait to see what many of you might do with ARKit. And Kevin, one of the cool things is there's probably many of you here today with devices in your pocket that could run this app. It's available on the hundreds of millions of iOS devices out there today. This technology runs now.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the really exciting things is fundamentally, not only is GE developing on this SDK, but our partner ecosystem is developing on this SDK as well as our customers. So there's infinite possibilities, and we're really looking forward to working together on the art of the possible and on this continued journey. So thank you very much for being here. We're really excited about this partnership.
We couldn't be more delighted, and Kevin, maybe we want to add that for those of you who want to learn more, I assume that's most of you, some of you, one of you. I hope many of you will be interested to go to the couple of breakout sessions that exist this afternoon to learn more about the SDK and to understand more about Predix working on iOS. So Kevin, thanks so much for having me. We're really thrilled with this partnership. We look forward to seeing great things from all of you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So very exciting new technology partnership. And when we think about the journey that our customers are going through, it takes a variety of different partners that make up the partner ecosystem, from technology partners to ISVs, independent software companies, as well as services partners, which are really critical for that transformation. And as we build up our services partner network, I wanted to bring one of our most strategic services partners on stage with me, which is Accenture. I'd like to introduce Paul Dordery, who is the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for Accenture. Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Kevin. Great to be here. I think it's my fourth Minds and Machines, and it's great to see it getting bigger and better.
Fantastic. So, Paul, when we think about what we call digital industrial, what you call Industry X.0, tell us your point of view on Industry X.0.
Yeah, I mean, what we just saw was a cool, cool example of how we can really bring Industry X.0 to life. You hear a lot of different things. We hear about the fourth industrial revolution, the second machine age, Industry 4.0. So we applied a little algebra, and we just put the X in there. And so it's Industry X.0 is what we're calling it, but it sends a message as well that this isn't about a single destination that you can plan for and achieve. This is about a continual reinvention of what we're doing in industry. So we look at Industry X.0 as the digital reinvention of industry to get to intelligent products, more intelligent products, to get to optimized assets and operations, and to get to a digitally empowered workforce. And for us, this is something that we've created as a business at Accenture. It's not a hobby. It's not PowerPoint. It's a business. We've trained 10,000 people. We have 22 innovation delivery centers around the world in a lot of the industrial hotspots. And it's a big business we're committed to help our clients transform for this digital reinvention. And we've got a 6-point formula that we focus on, working with GE, working with our clients, to help set the path around digital reinvention. It starts with focusing on the core and transforming the core of operations, and where it starts around that optimization. It moves on to the workforce and how you digitally enable your workforce, and how you create and reimagine the experiences for the workforce, how you extend the ecosystem, which is what we're talking about, and finally how we look at what we call the WISE pivot, which is a way of, that we work with a lot of our clients on, and how do you blend the investment in the current business with the transformation to the new and get the balance right, which is where a lot of companies struggle.
Absolutely, and on that note, when you think about that customer journey, how do you envision, you've made a very significant commitment to our alliance, when you look at how do the secret sauce, how do we better together, 1 + 1 = 3, if you will?
Yeah, we look at it from a customer perspective. If we can work together and put our capabilities together to deliver more value and accelerate, for our clients, that's really what it's all about. And this is a case where I look at leaders working together. GE is a leader in operational technology, industrial operations. Accenture is a leader in information technology and business transformation. And we put those capabilities together, and it really accelerates the journey for our clients. And I think that's what it's all about. And when we're in this digital age that we're in, it's important to have an ecosystem, as you talked about. If you're just selling a product, you can go on your own. But if you're helping clients digitally transform, it takes an ecosystem, and that's why we've invested around GE with the hundreds of specialists that we've trained on the GE platforms and products. We're investing together in horizontal solutions like what we're doing in asset performance management, as well as vertical solutions in oil and gas and power and healthcare. And that's how we think we can work together and really lead and accelerate. So it's clients like Saudi Aramco, where we're together applying digital optimization and analytics to improve their business. A leading mining company we're working on together, where we're bringing the asset performance management digitally into the cloud with Microsoft Azure to help accelerate the value that they're getting from their operations.
Yeah, you mentioned, in fact, the migration to Azure. I think the timing is perfect, as we've announced Predix on Azure now, and that'll be GA by the end of the year. We think that Microsoft can play a really critical role in helping customers move to the public clouds like Azure.
Yeah, we agree, and I think that's another power of the relationship that we have. We share many of the same ecosystem partners, Microsoft, Apple, you just had on stage, SAP, and many others, so we can bring the power of that combined ecosystem together as well.
Paul, as you look at, as the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for Accenture, when you look at all the different emerging technologies today, can you comment on which emerging technology you think will have the biggest impact on the digital transformation journey our clients are going through?
Yeah, well, it's if you work in technology, it's a great time to be alive, a great time to be working, a great time to be doing what all of us in the room are doing. There's a number of technologies we're focused on. I think you've seen a lot of them. If you just go down and walk around the exhibits downstairs, you see all these technologies. But I'll highlight four things. Artificial intelligence is clearly the biggest and I think central theme of what we're seeing. We believe it's the single most transformative technology of the information age, and we're just at the start of applying it right now with what we're doing with machine learning and deep learning and reinforcement learning, and there's more to come and more advanced techniques to come. So artificial intelligence is clearly exciting, and it's at the heart of the minds, in the minds and machines too. So that's an exciting technology. Blockchain is something that we're looking at a lot in the Industry X.0 context. Blockchain around asset identity, around transactions, blockchain applied in the supply chain for multi-party integrity. We think there's huge opportunity for blockchain to reinvent the collaboration frameworks across industries with Industry X.0. Extended reality is a third area that we're very focused on, which we just saw a great example from Apple. That was fantastic. And we're looking at using things like gaming machine engines to provide the operations interface for a drill rig operator to really enhance the effectiveness of humans in operating machines. And then the fourth area that I'd highlight and put out there is quantum computing, which we haven't talked about a whole lot here, but it's something that we've been investing in for a few years, and some believe is still a little bit far off, but we believe there's applications of quantum here and now, and we're already doing real work for clients applying optimization through quantum computing to solve some real significant Industry X.0 types of problems, and it's a new technique, hundreds of millions of times faster and more efficient than even the cloud techniques that we have today.
Very insightful. In fact, you touched on AI and machine learning. We think the work we're doing around AI together with you, when we marry it with the physics, the material science, we really create a winning combination to create a deeper, richer set of predictive analytics together.
Yeah, that's right. It's the combinatorial technology and pulling that all together that really I think creates the opportunity.
So Paul, as you look at, we touched a bit on this yesterday. Satya Nadella talked about the people transformation as part of this journey that's needed. And John Flannery talked about this as well. You're obviously advising a lot of clients every day on their people transformation, as well as the workforce of the future. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, it's a big area, and I think the last panel was great with the comments from Beth and Christoph and some on the panel. We heard a lot about this culture and people transformation. There's three areas that we focus on. The first is creating an architecture in your company around innovation. how do you innovate? Because this generation we're moving into isn't about a one and done or a single transformation, it's continuous. And so building an architecture in your company so you can continuously innovate is really critical. And that's about people, it's about some of the capabilities in your organization, and about how you invest. The second area we focus with our clients on is around kind of an agile and experimentation culture, because you can't wait till you figure it all out. You have to get started, and you have to start small, have a big vision, and then figure out how you can scale fast. And that's something we're very focused on. And then the third area is around people, and how do you view people and talent differently? Because people are going to need to go on a journey and continue on a journey. So it's not about automating people and replacing people. It's about investing in people so people have the capability to adapt and move and evolve as the technology moves. So investments in the workforce, investments in the communities that we work in education are really critical to creating that culture that we need for the talent.
Very, very insightful. So while we're on the topic of future workforce, I understand you have a new book coming out, Humans and Machines, I understand. I love the title, very similar to Minds and Machines.
Yeah, we just, we stuffed it all up. We put the body back in, so we're not going from minds to human. So the title of the book is Human plus Machine, Reimagining Work in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. And it's really intended as a management guide, both on what is AI, because I think a lot of people struggle with it, and how do you apply it to your business, which there hasn't been a lot done on. So, and one of the things we observed is that there's this polarizing debate happening about jobs are being automated, people are being put out of work, machines are going to take over the world, and we really don't believe that's true. The problem is it's easier to see the jobs being replaced than it is to imagine the new jobs being created. We need better tools to imagine and develop the new jobs, the new workforce for the future. That's what we're trying to do in the book. And we lay out a framework that we call the missing middle, which is the way in which we need to rethink jobs and work and what people do to combine the work of machines and humans together. So we have a category of jobs that are about where humans help machines be more effective, and a category of jobs where machines help humans gain superpowers and be more effective. And we think this missing middle idea is key to this whole digital reinvention and reimagination that we're talking about in the workforce.
Very interesting. I'm looking forward to reading the book.
Yeah, very good. You can pre-order on Amazon.
And really appreciate you coming today. I think that the partnership that we've built really is an illustrative example of how you truly get the force multiplier effect with the ecosystem to help customers down this transformation journey.
Yeah, exactly. All about transformation and working together to accelerate the journey for our clients.
So thank you very much for joining today.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President of Dreamcore and CNN commentator Van Jones.
Hello. So you guys look happy, but a little scared. That was my observation watching you guys. I love conferences like this, and I know you do too. You sit here, you get a lot of inspiration, you get a lot of information, but the reality is next week you're going to be back in the saddle. You're going to be dealing with a lot of folks who weren't here, and you're going to be trying to figure out how to make the change stick. So this next panel that's going to come out is going to help you with that, because we're really facing a double-barreled challenge. On the one hand, you have the digital challenge we've been talking about, but there's another challenge as well. There's a digital challenge to your business. There's also the demographic challenge. How do we tap the genius that right now is being wasted? It's one of the great ironies that we see over and over again is people in great companies and great firms with amazing opportunities saying, we just can't find the talent. We just can't find the people. We don't know how to hire out of different communities. We know we're missing something. We bring it up at every conference, but we just don't know how to close the gap. At the same time, in the communities I do a lot of my work, I see genius on top of genius, wrapped up in genius, and deep fried in more genius in tough communities that have tough challenges, and we can't often figure out a way to connect the genius that's looking for work with the businesses and the corporations and the firms that are based on leveraging genius to create work and value and opportunity. And so I have personally invested myself in trying to solve this problem. I'm wearing my purple tie. I think I'm the only person here wearing a tie. I'm somewhat embarrassed. But I wear it in honor of a guy named Prince, one of my close friends, the late rock star. Before he died, one of the last philanthropic endeavors that Prince embarked upon was creating something called yeswecode.org. And that is now becoming one of the biggest scholarship funds in the country to connect unlikely talent to technology, getting apprenticeships and jobs for folks. I just want to tell you the story of one of the Yes We Code scholars to kind of set this next panel up. There's a guy named Joe, good guy, non-traditional background when it comes to technology, actually was able to get accepted to college, actually was able to enroll in college, but from a financial point of view, from a logistical point of view, just couldn't stay. So he winds up becoming a college dropout, but he's so committed to technology anyway, he starts working for free at an intern at a tech company. People see the talent, but there's no internal capacity to take someone like him and really develop him into the kind of superstar he had the potential to be. So he was just going to wander off, get a job at Applebee's, and go on about his life. But it turns out, beyond the Stanfords and the MITs that we've heard of, there are other kinds of training opportunities, these boot camps, these coding academies. So he decided he wanted to go to a coding academy and try to get some training. But even there, the price point was too high. So Yes We Code steps in with our scholarship fund, connecting him to a coding academy. Long story short, Joe, it's a true story, is now working at Intuit. His life has gone from not very good to a very good salary, and he is an engineer on the fast track now. He's going to give tremendous value to that company. What does that tell you? It means our existing ecosystem, internal to companies and external, is just missing a massive amount of potential. And I think what's going to prove itself to be true is that some of the people that we discover in the community college world, kids of color who are going to, and young women who are going to Ivy League schools but still can't make the jump from those schools to technology companies. Folks who are going to tribal colleges on Native American reservations, folks who are going to historically black colleges and universities, folks who are going to Hispanic serving institutions, that there's such a big pile of genius on a fire sale that the firms that figure out that you can meet this digital challenge and the demographic challenge at the same time with the same people are going to have a decisive edge in being leading forces and dominating in the new century. So what I want to do now is to bring to the stage three of the just downright superstars in this field. There's a lot of talk about diversity and diversification, and we all say, oh God, do we have to talk about it again? Some people are not just talking about it. They are having world-class success with it. But they think about this stuff very, very differently than most of us have gotten accustomed to hearing about it. So we're going to bring them out. I want you to welcome to the stage our panelists. The director for Europe, Dwight Powery, is in the house. The director for student programs at Code 2040, Chris Simamore, is in the house. And we also have the founder and president from Build On, Jim Zalkowski, is in the house. So give him a round of applause. Great, great, great. So look, I have said that I think these companies are in deep doo-doo because they are looking down this double-barrel challenge of the digital future and the demographic future, and it's hard to deal with either of them, let alone both at the same time. And so we've got to get this right, and we don't have time to try a bunch of different stuff. You are at Code 2040. You are arguably Code 2040, the premier organization taking this challenge on. You've been connecting really promising students of color from some of the top schools to technology firms, trying to get kids of color from Stanford to the Googles of the world. And you say that there actually is no pipeline problem. This strikes me as just completely wrong. You have to be wrong because every conversation we have about this is how do we improve the pipeline? How do we get kids from kindergarten, job ready. Why do you say there's no pipeline problem?
Yeah, thank you. I will say that looking at it through the lens of a pipeline problem is insufficient. So 20% of computer science graduates are Black or Latinx, and only 4 to 5% of those working in technology, particularly in technical capacities, are Black or Latinx.
When you say Latinx, like Malcolm X?
Nah, it's a great question. So at Code 2040, we really try to create an inclusive environment. So I'm using the gender-neutral alternative to Latino or Latina.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so you just said a number that I must have misheard. You said that 20% of the people who right now today are getting computer science degrees are Black and or Latino, Latinx. Well, I've never heard that before. 20%? Well, then why don't we have 20% of the people at these companies being Black and Latino?
Yeah, so I would say that companies that we have worked with, the patterns that we have observed, are doing things in a way that no longer meets the reality in front of them. So I'll give you a quick data point. At Code 2040, we have a 2-person recruitment team. That small team alone generates 2,000 applicants to our Code 2040 Fellows program. These are all Black and Latinx technologists. These folks then go on to be hired by the premier companies in Silicon Valley. Now, we're not just talking the Slacks and the Mediums of the world, but we're also talking about PwC and Goldman Sachs, right, who's going to be a partner this coming year. I will also say that one of the things that I would want all of you to think about is we are finding talent everywhere. And many of our company partners have traditionally only looked in very small places. So yes, you're going to find great talent at Stanford, but you're also going to find fantastic talent at Cal State Long Beach or Cal State Monterey Bay or Pomona. These places generate fellows who are hired by the companies that pay to be a part of our program.
So look, give me 2 dumb things that smart companies are doing. Because I mean, if you're correct, and I hope that you're wrong, but if you're correct, you're saying that right now, without us doing a single thing different, 20% of people getting these degrees are at least, computer science literate and ready, and we're underperforming it down at 1%, 2%, 3%. So give me 2 dumb things that somebody's doing right now that they could stop doing and do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say...
Or 2 smart things they could start doing.
2 smart things you can do. I would say, A, get rid of social and cultural proxies for talent assessment. So I understand that hiring is hard. There's a lot of time pressure, and so you're looking for shortcuts. But when you use things like GPA, university attended, or one of my least favorite, do I feel like I could have a beer with this person? You're actually constraining your talent pool at the outset needlessly, right? Because as I've mentioned before, we're finding talent everywhere. So I would say number 1, get rid of those proxies and actually do the hard work of assessing the talent. Think about what you need in the role and see what you need to measure to see if that person can perform.
How does somebody assess? Look, a GPA is easy. What is the equivalent if you don't use a GPA?
Yeah, so we focus very much on computer science majors, and so we're talking about software development, internships as part of the Fellows program. And so one of the things that we've coached our companies around is to do away with something like the whiteboard exercise and actually ask students to demonstrate what they can do with their code. When students are asked to do that, what they perform and what they generate is oftentimes much, much more effective for the hiring manager to assess if that person is going to hopefully have success in the role.
So I want to now turn to you. Year Up is just unreal in terms of what you guys have been able to do. You guys go into some of the toughest communities. You aren't even dealing with the folks at the MIT, Stanford, or Cal State level. You're dealing with folks who have GEDs.
Right.
You're dealing with folks who are aspiring to go to community college.
Right.
And yet somehow you're able to turn lives around and get these amazing success stories. Tell folks a little bit about Year Up, and then tell me how it is that you are training folks and finding folks to perform at this level from that starting point.
Absolutely. So Year Up is a national workforce development organization that we help recruit first, then train, and then place them with in internships at 250 companies, with GE being one of them. And we work with lower income youth. So one of the advantages that we have is we pull together both soft skills, professional skills, as well as technical skills curriculum for the students coming in. Most of these students come from very low expectations, and in the household, the community, or the schools. But we work and we pull together high expectations, high support for the students as they go through the program. It's a year-long program. Within the 6 months, it's technical training on a specific number of tracks that we can go into later, as well as professional skills. So how to communicate, how to deal with people, how to work together in teams. And one of the things that we do well with the students is there's a contract. So while we have high expectations on them, there's a contract that the students come in and sign to make sure that they're successful through the program. And then after the 6 months, they get placed in these internships, which they never knew that they could be involved in. And internships, GE has 30 interns now, and they've hired 70 of these students. But across the country, there's 4,100 students that we're going to serve this year. 4,100. When we started 17 years ago, it was 22 students. Now we're in 22 cities versus 1 city. So we're all across the US. And what we're finding companies are looking at is they're looking at the skill level, not the school. They're looking at the competency of what they can bring in to the organization. And there's what we call lower level or medium skill jobs that our students can perform. They perform well because they're very resilient at what they want to do. And
so, look, all that stuff is great. These guys got to make money. So, what are you training? What kind of training tracks? I mean, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you just think about the neighborhoods you're working in, it's hard for me to imagine what can they do. I have a better, the guy was talking about it's hard to imagine the jobs that are not coming or the jobs that could be coming, and we're getting better imagination. I think we need a better imagination for people right now. What are you training these young people to do?
Absolutely. So there's 5 technical tracks: business operations, finance operations, IT or DT. Then there's cybersecurity and data analytics. So one of the students that used to be at Year Up, they're now at Facebook, and they're on the VIP operations team, working for Mark Zuckerberg. So there's other students that I met down in LA, had to go through like a gang area. And the reason why they're at Year Up is because their brother told them about it, and now they're working at Sony. We're also partnering with other organizations to create data analytic tracks. And so our goal is to make sure that we meet the needs of the corporations. So we work together on building together that curriculum. And then in that 6-month internship, gives you a time to evaluate whether or not it's a right fit for both the student and yourself. So you have a try before you buy. So you can kind of line up both the skill sets and what they bring.
You know, speaking of try before you buy, Jim, you have identified a particular area of leadership development for the people who are already at the company, because Velcro takes 2 sides to stick.
That's right.
So you got to have the young people, the new people, the non-traditional talent willing to come, but you also have to have people at the companies willing to receive and passionate about it, excited about it, and competent at it. However, your tactics for creating the sticky side on the company side are unorthodox in the extreme. I hope you have thought through all the possible challenges of doing this at scale, but could you please explain to people what you do to folks to get them ready?
Yeah, well, let me take a step back and explain what our programs are all about, and then how GE folks for 26 years have been contributing into them. So we run intensive service learning programs in some of the most challenged urban high schools in the United States, bar none. We are at ground zero for the dropout crisis in America right now, working with youth, empowering them to change those statistics. So we empower kids through service learning. They look into their communities, they analyze, they look at the issues, they decide how they want to make change, right? Then they go and do it through service. And so over the last 26 years, we have mobilized more than 1,000 kids to contribute over 2 million hours of service and touch the lives of 1 million people living below the US poverty line in their own neighborhoods. These same kids have gone overseas and helped us build 1,200 schools in some of the economically poorest countries on the planet. We're in Burkina Faso, Mali, Malawi, Senegal, Haiti, Nicaragua, Nepal, and it has transformed everything. More than 1 million children, parents, and grandparents have attended these schools. So these urban youth have impacted the lives of 2 million people. And the impact on the students is incredible. 97% of the kids that get involved in Build On graduate in 4 years, 88% go to college. Those numbers are huge because the high schools where we're working with have an average graduation rate of well below 60%.
So look, that's phenomenal, and people have been screaming about it and excited about it. And you're capturing genius out of this stream. That's really sometimes literally a school to prison pipeline where we're just taking genius and sticking it in prison. You're diverting that stream, and that's great. But we also know that sometimes companies aren't ready, and even leaders don't get the joke. So what are you doing to help leaders receive and get excited and understand what the opportunity is? Because this is the crazy part. If you thought the first part was crazy, this is even crazier.
So we're in the South Bronx, we're in East New York, we're on the south and west sides of Chicago, two of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. We're in Oakland, we're in Boston. And 3 years ago, we couldn't have paid our donors and stakeholders to come and spend some time with our students. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we looked at millennials. We looked at Gen Zs, and they want to have a meaningful job working for an organization that has a mission and is making social impact. So we developed some platforms for millennials primarily to go deep. So we have a 36-hour immersion platform, which is full on, it's very intense. You're committed for 36 hours. You're paired up with a Build On student in the South Bronx or on the south side of Chicago. They take you into their neighborhoods, take you into their schools. They talk to you very candidly about the challenges and the solutions, and then you serve alongside these students. We also have a 6-month mentoring program, which we facilitate and bring mentors from some of the best companies in the world into our schools and our students to your companies. And then the third platform is kind of the most outrageous. We take teams of students and executives overseas to build schools, live with host families, and work side by side, digging foundations, mixing concrete. Kozema Ship Chandler, CFO of GE Digital, he's done it with his kids. He's doing more of it, so it's pretty exciting stuff.
So I'm going to move on to a couple more questions. But I would imagine that when you say, South Bronx, people might have some stereotypes. 36 hours later, what do the people who go say about those young people?
Well, I was just in the South Bronx on Friday with Dominic Barton, global CEO of McKinsey, with Vic, the head of North America for McKinsey, and then 12 of their best and brightest at McKinsey, right? And that's saying a lot because McKinsey's McKinsey. So we're in the South Bronx, and by the afternoon, we weren't even done yet. By the end of the first afternoon, Dominic Barton stands up and he said, I have never seen anything like this. These kids are resilient. They face immense adversity. They overcome it. They focus on solution. They have grit.
That's right.
They have tenacity. They never give up. This is the best place for us to bring clients to learn about leadership.
Wow.
So they made $1 million commitment to Build On, and they're bringing clients to the South Bronx on the south side of Chicago and the East Bay to learn about leadership from our students. So this dovetails on what the work that you're doing, man. This is where the talent is.
Absolutely. Back to you. Again, Code 2040 is you're kind of like the front end of the wedge in trying to really figure out how to make this stuff work and how to make it work well. And I think more than any other organization, you've just demonstrated that genius is evenly distributed. Opportunity is not.
That's right.
But the genius, and so our stereotypes about each other, the fears on both sides actually are keeping us from having some of these breakthroughs. Give us a little bit more advice, insight, anything from Code 2040 I think these folks need to hear.
Yeah, I'd love to leave you with this as you go on. 2040 marks the start of the decade when the country is going to become majority minority, right? So the American workforce is changing. The people that will buy products and services are going to look different. And I say you want to be ahead of that curve. Like being able to recruit and retain diverse talent is not going to be a nice to have, it's going to be a key competitive advantage. And I suggest that you work with companies like us where you can sort of learn how to do that more effectively in a rubber meets the road kind of program, right? Because when you work with Code 2040, you're recruiting Black and Latinx talent as you're learning about how to do that more effectively. So I would say really take that home, like there's a huge business case for really thinking about this in an urgent kind of way.
Similarly for you, you know, I have been a huge fan. I've actually been jealous of you guys because, you know, I work at the Dream Corps here in Oakland, and we try to, you know, identify good talent. But you guys are the best in class at doing it. Everybody knows it, and you're doing it at such a massive scale. What do you wish that the companies who aren't participating yet understood about the opportunity side for them?
Yeah, I think the opportunity is immense. Because I think when you look at talent, I mean, we focused on particular talents, right? We focus on those with bachelor's or master's. But I think if you look at beyond that, I mean, it's almost like a talent pipeline disruption, like there's a technology disruption. You need to look beyond that and look at what types of jobs that are needed with lower level, mid-level skills versus bachelor skills. There was just a report, Harvard's Business Review, and also Accenture just came out a report last week that talked about dismissive degrees and what jobs are not needed without a bachelor degree. And
wait, what does that mean, dismissive degrees?
So
do you try to diss somebody's degree?
I wouldn't dismiss mine. No, I think they're looking at that. Everybody looks at all these jobs need to have a bachelor's degree.
Oh, but they don't.
But they don't. But there's certain parts of the job that you just need, you know, maybe a community college, a 2-year degree. And so they said there's 6 million jobs that you don't need a bachelor's degree. And if you think about what you pay for when you get a bachelor's degree versus a non-bachelor degree, then, I mean, it hits your bottom line. So I think looking at, what I want to leave you with is look at those jobs that might not need a bachelor's or a master's.
Because again, you may be having practices that maybe they made sense at one point,
exactly.
But now you're actually missing out on this talent pool. Somebody else is going to access that talent, come up with new products, new services to serve new constituents, new customers that you don't even have on your radar screen. And that's really what I want to close with, because I see we're out of time. But I'll give you one last thing to say, because they have to tackle you to get you off the stage. You're so passionate. Go ahead.
All right. So what I'd like to leave everybody with is gratitude. So over the last 26 years, GE folks have gone out and built 35 schools in some of the poorest countries on the planet. Leaders from 9 different businesses have fanned out across the United States to do the deep dive, immerse for 36 hours to mentor our students. So we are just immensely grateful for that. Anybody else who's interested, come see us. We'd love to take you in there. There is radically great talent in our communities. We got to tap it.
Really, really good. And I just want to echo the sentiment. You know, I put the biases that I have as a middle-class black guy with an Ivy League law degree on the table because we get bombarded, and we got to be honest, with so many negative images and so many negative stereotypes. When we started doing Yes We Code and doing hackathons all across the country and going into communities that people talk about, but they never talk to the people who live there, every single person that we brought, their minds were just blown. They're like, wait, hold on a second. I can't believe how smart these kids are. I mean, these kids are so incredibly smart, and they're 3 steps ahead of everybody else when it comes to culture, when it comes to where technology could go. And they really wanted to figure out some way to bring them in. And then you got to figure out all the logistics, what these guys are great at. But I'm going to say this. A lot of times we sell this diversity stuff, and it's almost like charity. Like, we got to get out here and figure out some way to do the right thing to kind of help these misbegotten people. But I'm going to tell you that there's going to be a discovery very soon. It's not about these companies saving these young people. These young people are going to save some of these companies. They're going to turn them around. They're going to re-energize them. They're going to make them relevant. And you can solve both your problem, your demographic problem, your digital problem, out of the same population pool if you make the investment. Please give a round of applause to these people here and come back and talk to them afterwards. Thank you very much.